Well, if somebody tracks it down at Eichler's, then you can buy it too, but I don't know. You have to be able to track it down, David. All right, we are on Daf Gimel and Aleph at the top. The fourth line down. Amar Lei. This is talking about, of course, we're talking about Grusha L'Kohen Gadol. And does she require a chalitza or doesn't she require a chalitza? Right? Not Grusha, an Amana. Amana L'Kohen Gadol, does she require a chalitza, does she not require a chalitza? Again, because we're talking about a case where she fell to Yibum, and she's forbidden because she's Zor already to him. It says, Lo Ti'esh Hameis Chutza Lish Zor. The wife of the deceased should not be beyond, outside to a foreigner, but she's foreign to her already, because he's a Kohen Gadol, is not allowed to marry her. So the question is whether chalitza is necessary or not. So the Gemara's trend till now is that, let's take it from the top line. Rebun Barachia Boikum Rabbi Zira Amar L'Kohen Gadol Mausha Titzricha Chalitza, does she require chalitza? Omar, again, it should be lay. Omar lay. Efshar Lomar Kedushin Toiv Simba. Is it possible to say on one hand that marriage does take effect on her? Va'adomer Enatzir Chalitza. You're going to say it does not require. She does not require chalitza. She certainly does require chalitza. Chalitza must be essential. Omar lay. So he retorted to him, "Hey, I got a counter proof, and this is a good one. You got to give him credit for this one. Hare Islandis. Then Islandis is a woman who is incapable of giving birth. I don't know exactly translated into English." But she's not capable of ever having children. Then it's known. So I don't need kedushin type simba. She can be married. She's a woman. She can be married. But if the brother married an islandess of his own volition, and then he died, so his wife, the islandess, is not required to do neither yibum nor chalitza, because the whole concept has to do with fertility, and she's clearly infertile, right? Now, therefore says the Gemara, the Chora Amana L'Kohen Gadol should be in the same parameter. Omar Lei, so he said, no, it's not the same parameter. An island needs to be precluded from Yibum for another reason. Because it says, Asher Teilei, one who can give birth. Yotza Zushena Yoletis, as opposed to this girl, the islandess who cannot give birth. But Amana L'Kohen Gadol, perhaps that does require Yibum, Chalitza, and if you didn't try to affect the Yibum might indeed work. Alright, so we leave it up in the air. We don't come to any conclusion on one of the Kohen Gadol. The bottom line, she does require chalitza. The Noser came here bring that she does require chalitza because marriage can apply between the Amon and Kohen Gadol, and therefore chalitza is required. Now, getting back to the issue which we were discussing primarily yesterday, we derive all the forbidden relationships that they're not susceptible to Ibum from the sister, from your wife's sister. But just like your wife's sister, the prohibition pertains regardless of whether she's your brother's wife or not. So to all the other rights, they pertain regardless of whether it's your brother's wife or not, right? So Achat, the law made, instead of learning all of them from your wife's sister, to prohibit Yibum, learn it out from your brother's wife, which is mutter in the case of Yibum, right? If you're allowed to marry your brother's wife, even though she's never in the case of Yibum, so why not say the same thing by all the other rights? If your aunt is married to your brother, also let her be mutter in the case of Yibum. Just like Yibum cast away the prohibition on brother's wife, let it cast away all the other prohibitions as well. So it says, we learned the double prohibition from a double prohibition, meaning your sister's wife, your wife's sister, who's also your brother's wife, has two Isurim on her. That's different than your brother's wife, in and of herself, who only has one Isur on her. So therefore we learn that any time there's an additional prohibition besides the brother's wife aspect on this woman, it's learned out from wife's sister, where just like wife's sister is not susceptible to Ibum, so to any other Erva situation is not susceptible to Ibum. Because we learn out double Isser from a double Isser, as opposed to a single Isser, right? As opposed to learning out a case where there's an additional Isser from the solitary Isser, the single Isser of Eshes of your brother's wife, which is permitted in the case of Yibum. Okay? Rabbi Avun said, a slightly different spin on the same issue. Anything which comes as a result of a catalyst, or as a result of a cause, if the cause disappears, the prohibition disappears. And here the cause of prohibition on your brother's wife was the fact that your brother was alive. Now your brother died, so then she's permissible, right? Something which does not come because of a reason, even though the cause is cancelled, the prohibition remains. Which basically is not exact, but what it means is that your wife's sister, or for that matter, any other type of arayas, there was no catalyst which was causing it to be this way. It happened that way a long, long time ago, either from birth or from some external situation which is not impacted upon by your brother's death. So therefore, the cause did not go away, the prohibition remains in effect.
It's not really analogous because the wife's sister, there's no shiur, there's no mitzvah to marry her after the wife dies.
Right.
And in Yibum there is.
Right. It's not 100% analogous. Right. Agreed. Were it 100% analogous, we would have had no question to begin with. We're trying to show why it's similar enough. In other words, wife's sister to the other, why it's dissimilar enough. Wife's sister from brother's wife, and therefore by association, all the other rights which are similar to wife's sister, that Yibum should not apply in those areas. But you're right, it has to be a Havamina. You're explaining the Havamina. Okay? Says the Gemara, Umay Yislach, what's a case where, I forgot what the Gemara was asking, 1 second. Oh, what's an example of where Davash Abba Macham is going, so which doesn't come because of the cause? What are these cases? These 15 women mentioned in our Mishnah. Don't say his daughter, before she married his brother, Asura lo, she was also to her father. Now, now she married the brother, and the brother died. Muteres lo, you're going to say she became all of a sudden permissible to him? Doesn't make any sense. Since the prohibition was not contingent on the brother's marriage to this girl, so therefore, when the brother dies childless, neither does the prohibition fall off as a result of that. Okay? Now, it's interesting, the whole Bavli and the whole first few blot of Yevamos, from my limited knowledge of Yevamos, discusses the concept of Aseh Docha Lo Saseh.
Very much so.
Yeah, that's a primary discussion. But the mitzvah Saseh, if Yibum can push off a Lo Saseh of the very similar, it ain't here. Maybe it's coming up, but it ain't here yet. So, I don't know. That may or may not be significant. Again, maybe it's coming up. What do I know? But, that's a bread with Puravu is Dochan Lav. So, yeah, so far it's not here. Okay? So, in any event, so it says the Gemara, Levi Bar Susya, Boy Kumirat Rebbe. Levi Bar Susya asks for Rebbe the following. Let's add another woman to our Mishnah. Now, to the best of my knowledge, it is in fact true that the Meseres Rishas here is blank, and it's not blank because these things don't appear in the Bavli, as Reb Meir correctly pointed out last night. It's just that the guy was lying down on the job. So, but to the best of my knowledge, this question is not brought down in the Bavli. He asked, I want to add another woman to our list in the Mishnah. And the 16th one I want to add is the following. Anusas Imo, this is a woman who was, Imo Anusas Aviv, a woman who was raped by his father to produce him. In other words, he was born out of wedlock. Okay? Let's see. 1 second, I'll find the case here.
The woman wasn't married, so she's not a mom.
No, the woman wasn't married. Well, okay, I want to find the case. Give me a second. Here it is. Okay, you have here Shimon. This goes this way. Yaakov raped. Whenever this is marriage, like a little house. A diamond means rape. Okay, so Yaakov raped Dinah and had a son Shimon. Okay, In the meantime, this same Dinah married Yaakov's other son, Reuven, who she was not related to.
Why not?
How is she related?
Because it's still, because she's not Emo.
Because she's not a mother, nor is she the wife of Yaakov.
Right.
Because she was raped by Yaakov, right? Okay, or in the modern parlance, she was Yaakov's girlfriend. But she never became related by parentage or by marriage to Reuven. So therefore, she could marry Reuven, Shimon's brother, half-brother, and when Reuven dies, of course, Shimon can't be miyabim her because she's his mother, right? Okay? Now, this is according to opinion, so ask the Gemara again. Let's mention 16th woman. Imo, his own mother, Anusasavi, was raped by his father. Nusualach, he was married to his brother, Me'avi, on his father's side. Omer Leisa Rebbe said, Nikar Osaish, this person is recognizable, Shein Lo Moch B'Kodkora, that he has no brain in his head. In other words, what a klutz kasha you're asking. Okay? They weren't softies in the old days. Lama Amar Le, why did he say this, strident statement? So it says, begin to Rabbi Yehuda, because of Rabbi Yehuda. To Rabbi Yehuda Oser Banusa Savim Vutasavim. Rabbi Yehuda asers a person to marry his father's rape victim, or his father's seduction victim, or his father's living girlfriend, whatever the case may be. So therefore, this case doesn't exist according to Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, so that's why it's not mentioned. Says the Gemara, oh, come on, boo, boo, boo. V'lo modi Rabbi Yehuda dim shen kiddush k'shetavsa b'kiddushin. This is not an Isser Chimisa. This is an Isser Lav. Even according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's not a skila, a kares, it's a lav. So he's prohibited to marry his father's girlfriend. But it's not a lav. It's not a chiyuv mitzvah, so therefore marriage works. So if marriage works, this would be susceptible to yibum or chalitza, right? So it says the Gemara, look at Lomad Rabbi Yehuda Shim Kiddush Shetov So Kiddushin Ella begin Rabbi Yehuda Ella begin the Tinon. So why is Metra Mishnah? So it's because later on Dav Zayin in Halacha Hey we're going to say Sheish Arayas Chamrus Me'elu. There's 6 arayas which are more severe than those enumerated in our Mishnah. They're more severe. They're more stringent arayas. And they even if they're married to other women, either to other men, they're married to other men other than his brother, he's allowed to marry the co-wife. For example, if his mother is married to, it's really not directly related to Yibum. It's his mother, but this, okay, it's just the Mishnah later on discusses it. Derech Hagav. If his mother is married to another man, not his father anymore, and this person married besides his mother has another wife, 2 co-wives. So then, even though his mother, of course, he can't marry, if this other guy dies, he can marry his mother's co-wife. Got that? Reuven was, I can show the case inside, but let's try and do it outside. Reuven was the son of Leah. Leah, after having given birth to Reuven to Yaakov, went and married Esav. Okay? Another woman went and married Esav, right? Let's say Shprinza. So now, if Esav dies, although Leah, of course, can't marry Reuven because she's Reuven's mother, Shprinza can marry Reuven. Okay? So that's true. So it says more. Since we have that Mishnah later on, the time Rabbi Chia where Chia said, Cain, Time Chia came Rabbi Chia said the following: Imicholasli nasei lo'achid shelo ba'avera. If they can marry the brother without any sin, so roseim peturos mina chalitza, then their co-wives are pat mina chalitza umina yibum. Now, It's a very interesting case, Rabbi Chia said. Rabbi Chia said, of these 6 arayas, if there's a conceivable case in which one of them can marry the brother later, in other words, that Mishnah is talking about where the other husband is not at all related, right? The husband who married his mother and another wife is not related at all to this guy who now, upon the demise of that husband, wants to marry the co-wife who wasn't his mother. But let's say if it's conceivable that one of those 6 women mentioned in that Mishnah later on can marry the brother of this guy, and then the brother dies, then in that case they pater the tzoros, their co-wives, in achlitim re'yibum. Now, of course, and where do you have such a cool case? Your mother can't marry your brother, right? Generally speaking, your mother can't marry your brother. Again, assuming it was your mother, legitimate mother, who married your father. So she can't marry your brother, right? Because she is, even if she's not the mother of that brother, she's the father's wife. And the father's wife is forbidden to a son. So it says there's only one case which falls into that parameter where, technically speaking, this person, even though she's an erva to him, could marry his brother, and therefore the co-wife in that situation is pater min hayibum. Okay? Are you following so far?
Why pater from hayibum?
Well, because there's only one case which this works. Because the case is, ein l'cha ela ima anusas aviv, our case, the the live-in girlfriend of his father, who's nesua l'achim aviv, who can marry his brother from his father's side. Same thing. It said anusas avim futas are the same status. It said that before. Yeah.
Oh, yes, we did.
They're both the same. Yes, makes no difference. Okay, the morality of the issue is the same. So in any event, so this is the only case in which it's possible. And here's a picture. What's this picture?
No, they're all married in that picture.
No, yeah, this is not the picture. Sorry, scratch that. There's no picture of this one. Okay, so in any event, so this is the case here but this is the case actually. The case where you have such a possibility where it's a severe erva is where Dina, who was never married to Yaakov, can go and marry Reuven, Yaakov's son, by another wife, right? So in that case, if Dina were to have another co-wife, so then that co-wife would be pater from chalitza, from yibum. Despite the fact, and this is where Bichia's point is, despite the fact that there was no relationship at all whatsoever. In other words, Reuven was not at all related to Shimon, and the Reuven had 2 wives, one of which was Shimon's mother, right? The other wife, Shimon would be allowed to marry, but since Reuven is Shimon's brother, therefore, if there's another co-wife besides Shimon's mother, Dinah, so that co-wife is pater min chalitza min hayibum. Okay? That's because of that relationship, the brother relationship. Okay?
They're half brothers.
They're half brothers, right?
So there's no yibum required. There's no.
No, they're half brothers from the father. There is yibum required because of the father. So it says more basically because of the shtickle Torah, because Rabbi Chia had this whole drasha to say about this case that this is only the case of the sheish arayas chamuros, in which it's conceivable that this arayas chamura to Shimon, his mother, can marry his brother and exempt son from chalitza. Evil, so that's not why it's not mentioned in our Mishnah. Says more, what? Ha! Says more, lama lo tanisa. So why is it not mentioned in our Mishnah? Begin to Tnisa Rabbi Chia? Well, Nistinei. Because Rabbi Chia wanted to say something about a shtickle Torah we're not going to mention in our Mishnah. Kol shekei Nistinei. We should certainly say it. It obviously is a valid case where there's no chalitza or yibum. Why is it not mentioned in our Mishnah? So it says, it's a good question. So it says, I'll begin to think, because we learned later on, a very fascinating thing. Later on in Masechta it says in the second parak, that on all these cases of the 50 women in the first Mishnah, it says if she was married to one of his brothers and this erva, And the Erva's sister was married to another one of his brothers. And they both fell simultaneously for Yibum, so then he can do Yibum on the second one. It's a fascinating case. Really is. Shows the beauty of Yevamos. Okay? Look, here's Levi, right? Levi is one of the Levi had a son, Don. Don was married to Rachel. So Rachel is Levi's daughter-in-law, right? Rachel and Leah were sisters. After Don, Levi's son, died, Rachel went and married her uncle by marriage, Reuven, right, who's Levi's brother. Leah, her sister, married Shimon, another one of Levi's brothers. Now, Reuven and Shimon both died in a car accident simultaneously. So even though Levi may not marry Rachel, because Rachel was once his daughter-in-law, he may marry Leah. They do Hebrew, they say marry. He may marry to Miyabim Leah. Why? Because albeit Leah is Rachel's sister, but if it's not a co-wife, it's a wife of another brother. So there's no reason not to marry Leah, right? To be Miyabim Leah. So he's mutter to one, to the sister, but not to her. You can't say that in a case where, and here it gives another case, a similar case, another example of the same thing. But he can't say it in our case. Well, this is a case where why is she forbidden here? What arias is she here? It's his mother-in-law. Okay, same idea here. That Levi's mother-in-law, Rachel, went and married, after her husband died, went and married Reuven, his brother. And at the same time, her sister, Rachel's sister Leah, went to marry another brother, and they both died simultaneously. So even though Levi can't marry his own mother-in-law, he can marry his mother-in-law's sister, right? His mother-in-law's sister is not forbidden to him. So in any event, those cases all work. All the 15 women in the Mishnah, if you had a case of two sisters, one of which was the Erva and one of which was not, and they both fell simultaneously to Yibum, he can miyabim one even though he couldn't be miyabim the other. The only case that does not work is this case over here. The case of Anusa Saviv, and that's why Anusa Saviv is not mentioned in our Mishnah. Because how's that going to work? Yaakov raped Dinah, right? And they had a son Levi, right? And Levi's brother Shimon, so Levi's brother Reuven, then married Dinah, right? Okay, so far so good. And then Shimon, another brother, married Dinah's sister Leah, right? But he can't marry. If the Reuven and Shimon both died in the car crash, he can neither be miyabim Dinah, his mother, nor Leah, because Leah is what to him? His aunt. No, a chosimo. It's his aunt. So in this case, he can't marry the sister, okay? Because the sister here of his mother is his aunt, okay? So that's why I mentioned our Mishnah, because our Mishnah is talking about the 15 cases in which, and if the sister of this erva is married to another one of the brothers, you can marry that, you can be miyabim that sister, right? Because it's not a co-wife, it's a different situation. But in this case, the case of Anusas Aviv, you can't marry, you can't be miyabim the erva's sister, because the erva's sister ends up being your aunt, and you cannot be miyabim your own aunt. Okay? See, we're back in the thick of things. Isn't everybody excited to be learning Yevamos? So it says what? What? No, it happens to be nice. It happens to be cute. So again, since it says about all the 15 cases in the first Mishnah, that the sister who's Yevama, or as well, in other words, where the two brothers die in a car crash, can either do chalitza or yibum, vat mishkach bekulon, it works by all 15. That achosah should be. Shevimta misyabem is that the sister who is Yevam can be misyabem, chutz, with the exception of Me'imo Anusa Saviv, from his mother who was raped by his father, Nesua Lachi Me'aviv, who's married to his brother from his father. In that case, it doesn't work, as we proved over here. So therefore, that case is not enumerated in the first Mishnah. Okay, now the Gemara gets super lumdish. You ready for super lumdish? We haven't had this in a long time, either in Bavli or Yerushalmi. Yitzchak bar Istia. Yitzchak bar Amar Shimon Lakish, Rabbi Shimon Lakish. I'm sorry. Yitzchak Amar Shimon Lakish boy this Sheshes Renoshim. Shimon Lakish wanted to say 16 women in the first Mishnah as well, but not a different one. He wanted to say, it should say Chalutza Poteres Sarasa. Now this is a very interesting thing. What it means is that it's a complicated case. I don't know why he didn't draw it, but if you have Ruvain did chalitza. Ruvain had a brother Shimon. Shimon died. Okay, he had a wife. Shimon had a wife, Shprinza. Okay, so now Ruvain did chalitza on Shprinza. Despite that, Shprinza went and married a third brother, Levi. Levi had two wives, though, Shprinza and Yenta. Okay? So now, when Levi dies, of course he's going to die because he's a sinner. When Levi dies, so now Ruvain does not do chalitza yibum on either of them. Why? Because one of them is his chalutza. So he's not allowed to be Yabi Murray, Ray did chalitza on her. Neither was his brother allowed to marry her. It was not proper. Ooh, that's what we're going to get into. Right? So now, that's a very good question. The Gemara's not done. The Gemara's going to ask that. But now Reuven cannot go and be Miyabim neither Shprinza, who of course he already did chalitza, or Yenta, even though he never had any relationship with Yenta previously, because Yenta was a co-wife with Shprinza, right? So that's the Gemara. So that's the case. Why don't we mention that in our Mishnah? Nisnei sheishes noshim chalutza poter sarasa. Rabbi Yaakov Dechumya, Rabbi Yaakov from the south said, "Kum Rabbi Yosin from Rabbi Yossi v'lam lo tani." So why didn't we say it? Begin to Rabbi Akiva, because Rabbi Akiva. So Rabbi Akiva said, "Yesh mamzer b'chalutza," right? That there's no if you have relations with a woman who's a chalutza, she's still your Eishesach, right? She's still your brother's wife, technically. That erva never fell off, and therefore her child, his progeny, is a mamzer. Now, what's relevant for that? It means that you can't marry your chalutza. Neither you nor a brother can marry chalutza. So therefore, Levi could not have married Shprinza, right? He tried, but it didn't work. The premise of Reish Lakish's case is that Levi's marriage to the Shprinza was effective, but it wasn't, according to Rabbi Akiva. Says, maybe that's true, but Nisnini al de Rabbanan. But according to Rabbanan, a chalutza is no longer an Eishesach. A chalutza, the Isser on a chalutza is not the Isser of Eishesach anymore, but what is it? Only an Isser? Lav. Not an Isser Kares. And therefore marriage does work according to Rabbanan on a chalutza. And therefore Levi's marriage to Shprinza was effective. So if that's the case, so we'll let it be mentioned in our Mishnah. So it's more a little bit of gulp against the wall. Lo asina misnei elamilin deklama moidi behon. We didn't want to mention our Mishnah anything unless everybody agrees about it. In other words, this case is only possible in Rabbanan who hold that a marriage can be contracted by a chalutza. So if Levi's marriage to Shprinza was effective, and only according to him could we say that Shprinza paters Yenta from Yibum and Chalitza. But according to Rabbi Akiva holds, Levi's marriage to Shprinza was null and void, so Yenta is not a co-wife of a chalutza, and Yenta would still be chayiv in Yibum. So he didn't want to mention a case which only works according to Rabbanan, not according to Rabbi Akiva.
Well, but apparently, even according to Rabbi Akiva, though, it's not because the Isra Shesach resurfaces, it's because it's a separate Isra of chalutza. Because he holds...
Not so simple. Gemara spent again to it.
All the time, it's a monster from Chaim and Laban. So there's no proof from here that we're picking on Rabbi Akiva. It must be because of Isser Chalutza. You're
right. He holds the Isser Chalutza itself, even though it's only a lav, does my marriage be purpose. You're right. I'm wrong. You're correct. I apologize. So it says more. As of the Yitzhak Barastia, Yitzhak Barastia's question goes like Rabbi Yami. And what Rabbi Yami said, we'll see in a moment. Rabbi Yasamar, before him, we're going to bring Rabbi Yasu, who argues Rabbi Yami. Rabbi Yasu, who is Rabbi Yasi, says, Amar Yispagam Rabbi Yochanan Rishim Elokish, Rabbi Yochanan Rishim Elokish Adam Machlukas. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Hu Eino Chayev Ela Chalutza. This is interesting halacha, according to Rabbi Yochanan. The other one says, if I did chalitza to a woman, right, or somebody does chalitza to his brother's wife, so he's chayev on a chalutza, right? I'm sorry, who ain't a chayev on a chalutza? I apologize. He's not chayev koris having relations with the chalutza, or marrying the chalutza, because by having done chalitza to her, he took off the Isser Veishasach vis-a-vis him. And the Gemara is going to explain later on how that works. But having done chalitza, ironically, he now is it's no longer his Eishasach. Even though he never actually took her in, the Eishasach issue on him was broken. So vis-a-vis him, he's not chayiv. V'achin chayovin. But the brothers who didn't do chalitza to this woman, only he did chalitza, there was only one chalitza done, if they have relations with the chalutza, they are chayiv koris. Because vis-a-vis the other brothers, she remains an Eishasach. Is that clear? Fascinating concept, right? Regardless, beinu ala bein ha'achim chayiv ha'atzara. On the co-wife of the chalutza, you only have to use chalitza to one of many co-wives, right? If your deceased brother had 4 co-wives, only to use chalitza to one of them, and that works for all of them. So on the other wives, since no procedure was ever done on them, they remain both vis-a-vis the cholates and vis-a-vis the others in the pristine prohibition of Eishasach, and therefore there's a chiv kares on them. Okay? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Shimon Lakish Amar Beinu Ben Achim, both he and his brothers, there's no kares on any of them. Why? Because once a Yibum Chalitza has been done, the spell is broken. There's no longer an Eishasach prohibition in play. That's Rabbi Yasa. Rabbi Yami Machlish Musa. Rabbi Yami said the exact opposite. So Rish Lakish is the one who said that the Yisr of Eishasach still remains situationally. Rabbi Yochanan is the one who holds it broke off altogether. And the previous question, on top, Yitzhak Brastia, in the name of Shimon Lakish, who said, let's say in our Mishnah, the concept of Tzoras Chalutza, that's going according to Rabbi Yami's learning. The Rish Lakish holds that a Chalutza becomes an erva vis-a-vis the other brothers. Okay? Says Gemara further, Rabbi Ami, Rabbi Zir kum Rabbi Yasa. Rabbi Zir said for Rabbi Yasa, but Rabbi Ami machlush shmasa. Then Rabbi Ami learned the exact opposite view. What you said, Rabbi Yochanan said, he said, Rish Lakish said, vice versa. Says more, Ela Deon Isa Rabbi Yochanan. So various opinions. Deon is lashon of Deot, right? The opinions. The various opinions as to what Rabbi Yochanan held. Va'afilu Tamer, you might even say Deon. It should be lace. The Gillian Ephraim changed it. Lace Rabbi Yochanan. Maybe there's no difference in opinion what Rabbi Yochanan holds. But it's certainly Dayon, Isser, Rishim, and Lakish. There's a difference in opinion as to what Rish Lakish held. Whether Rish Lakish held that the Chalutza, whether he held that the situational prohibition of Eishasach which still remain, or he holds the Isser of Eishasach falls off altogether. Right. Mm-hmm. It's unclear what Rish Lakish says. Now, Milsad Yitzhak Bar Yistai Meseil Rabbi Ami. Yitzhak Bar Yistai's position is similar to that Rabbi Ami, that there is still a concept of erva of chalutza vis-a-vis another brother, right? And the Rabbanon's position is a proof to Rabbi Yasa, who says that there is no prohibition of erva vis-a-vis the other brothers once chalitza is done on her. Dam Rabbi Yirmiyah Barba. Rabbi Yirmiyah Barba said, Treim b'shem Rabbi Chia, Rabbi Yirmiyah and Rabbi Bar. Treim both said b'shem Rabbi Chia Rabba Nera Chia Barba. Hakol modim b'tzor shubuchayev. They both agree. These are the words of the Rabban, and these are the words of Rabban agreed to Rabbi Yasa. That both the words of Rabbi Yirmiyah and Rabbi Bar. They both said name Rabbi Chia Barba. Hakol modim b'tzor shubuchayev. Everybody agrees, even both Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish, that on the co-wife, the spell is never broken. Meaning that she always remains an Eishasach. Ma pli, what's the machlokes? By the chalutza herself. Rabbi Yochanan Amar hu eino chayav al chalutza. He's not chayav al chalutza because he broke the spell on her. V'achin chayovin al chalutza. And the brothers are chayiv on the chalutza, because vis-a-vis them, the spell was never broken. She's still an Eishasach. Only vis-a-vis this guy, she's not an Eishasach. Now, Milan de Rabbanon. Right away we come to tremendous machloikis and pshat, in Lomdus, I should say. Milan de Rabbanon, I mean chalitza p'tur. What the rabbis say is that chalitza is a p'tur. Now the Ritbaz brings down here is a tremendous machlokus. Is chalitza a kinyan or is chalitza a p'tur? So the Ritbaz says beautiful. Oh, that's what you would think, right? Chalitza is a p'tur, right? No, but so the other pshat is that chalitza makes a kinyan, meaning that until now she couldn't regard her as being a divorcee, right? Chalitza at the same moment creates the bond that snaps it. Because there's no such thing as divorce except from a marriage. And chalitza is what makes the divorce, but in order to do that it has to affect the marriage. And the way the Rogachover explains that is that it really is a question as to what zika is. What the relationship between Yavam and Yevama prior to Yibum is. Is it like marriage, just a quasi-marriage, or is it just just an obligation which is incumbent upon them, and they have no relationship? And he says, yeah, but here it reflects. But this machlokas is not in the Bavli. Reflected in what chalitza is. That to that point the Bavli never comes. It's only Yerushalmi. And the Rogachover says it really has to do with whether zika is the cause or the effect. If you say zika is the cause, right, that zika is a state, right, so then chalitza is a p'tur. If you say zika is an effect, there is no such state as zika. Just happens to since they have to do yimur chalitza, so until then we look at them, we have to look at them as being something, so we call it zika, which means they have some sort of obligation to each other. But it's not a state in and of itself. So then...
But she's in limbo.
That's right, it's limbo. It's not a relationship, it's a limbo. That would be the other interpretation. So then chalitza is a kinyan. Because then chalitza is actually the
frees her once and for all.
Right.
No longer limbo.
And that's the kinyan and at the same time, because then zika is just the state of limbo previously. Okay? So the words of the Rabbanon, who to distinguish between the way the Pnei Moshe explains it, between a tzora and a chalutza, hold that a chalutza is a p'tur and not a kinyan. Now we're going to go into this in greater detail, but if you hold, well, let's see in a minute. Let's see inside. Shimon bar Boikum Rabbi Yochanan. Shimon bar Bo asked Rabbi Yochanan, Ma ben choylitz, ma ben megarish. What's the difference between chalitza and divorce? Okay? In other words, after divorce, if your brother divorces his wife, she still lost it to you, right? So why after chalitza do I say she's also not still lost to you? Why do I say at that point it's only a lav and not a sukaris? Why does chalitza, according to Rabbi Yochanan, downgrade the iser? So Amalei said, Atzavar chalitza is a kinyan. You hold chalitza as a kinyan, and now it's his wife, and he divorces her, or whatever. I don't know if the language of his wife is proper. But now he has the rights over her, he divorces her, and now she's like a Eishasach who's been divorced. Well, she still remains an Eishasach. And an Eishasach who's divorced is still looking at Yisracharis. But that's not true. Eina el p'tur. Chalitza relinquishes whatever bond was there. Meaning there was a diminished bond to begin with, which is zika. And that bond is now released by chalitza. So therefore, there is no concept anymore of Eishasach. So it's a fascinating thing. If you hold chalitza as a kinyan, that means till now she was an Eishasach in limbo. With chalitza she became a definitive Eishasach, and at the same time that bond was severed, just like a divorce. But just like an Eishasach who's divorced, still an Eishasach. So to after chalitza, she's an Eishasach. But if you hold chalitza as a p'tur, it means that zika is a diminished state of marriage, right? It's already, since the Torah downgraded her from a wife to a zkuka, let's call it, that's what the Gemara calls it, and then chalitza relinquishes even that bond. But she already lost her status of Eishasach. she's already on a much lower state. Okay? It's a fascinating chakira, which is going to come up again and again throughout Masechta Yevamos. Okay? So again, Atzabur Chalitza Kina Eno Ptur Ena Achim Chayovim Oleh Mishum Ishto Shocholetz. However, that's the brothers. That's only vis-a-vis him. But the brothers, they're not chayav upon her because of the wife of the cholet. Ava chayavin oleh mishum ishto shameis. But they're chayav on her because of the brother of because of she's an eishasach. But it's vis-a-vis the cholet. He got the ptur. But vis-a-vis the other brothers, again, according to Pina, holds that the other brothers still retain the character of eishasach. Vis-a-vis them, that prohibition still remains in effect. Okay? So that's how we're learning it. Okay. Says Gemara, Rabbi Yudan asked the following question. Rabbi Yudan Kamada, because now she's just like an Asian Sachshini's Garsha.
So that through the
right. Even vis-a-vis him himself. Although the Gemara is going to discuss that now. Okay, but Yol Chalitz is a ptur, so he gets off the hook. He gets off the hook because it's diminished. The brothers still might remain on the hook because vis-a-vis them, Chalitz is ptur. Yol Chalitz.
So it comes up that the brothers are stuck no matter what.
No. So now we're going to ask. Rabbi Yudan Boy, according to Mandomer, who says, we haven't explained this Mandomer. There's an opinion which holds that none of them are chayav al chalutza. That chalutza is a ptur to such an extent that nobody's chayav al chalutza anymore. Okay, we had a machlokas. So we had every possible configuration. So now it's talking about the configuration holds that once she's a chalutza, everybody's off the hook. She's no longer an Asian Sachvis be anybody. Okay? Which implies, says when Nicho hu ain't a chayav al chalutza. I understand that he's not chayav al chalutza shekvar near liftorba, because he stepped to the bat and he stepped to bat and he patted her. V'chayav al atzara, but he's chayav on the co-wife shlo near liftorba because he never stepped to the plate with the co-wife, right? But achin ma ben chalutzo etzlo ma betzor etzlo. But by the brothers, what difference does it make? Why, according to that opinion in Rabbi Yochanan previously, is there a difference between the chalutza and the tzoros vis-a-vis the other brothers? Vis-a-vis the other brothers, they never stepped to the plate. He's not their shliach. So if they never step to the plate, they should remain Yisrei Shasach on all, no matter what, whether it's chalutza or the tzara. So says the Gemara, Chazer V'amar. So then, Rav Ami said, who was speaking here? Rabbi Yudan. Rabbi Yudan came back and sat back and said, you know what? I have an even more basic question than that. I don't even know more than that. And Einat Yodea, he's talking to himself. You don't know. Mishum mat mechayvo. What's the Isser anyway? What's the Isser once Chalitz is done? Mishum ishto shel choletz, mishum ishto shel meis. Now, a fascinating question. He says, then again, vis-a-vis the other brothers, what's her prohibition now? Once Chalitz has been done on her, is she still the wife of the dead brother, and therefore she's prohibited? Or is she now the wife of the brother who did Chalitza? And that's why she's prohibited. Right? It's a more basic question. What's her parameter? Why is she prohibited? Because of the Eishas HaMeis or the Eishas of the live brother?
If she's the wife of the dead brother, and let's say she had children.
Oh, then she's still Kares and all the other brothers, sure. Right, that's right. The sister's wife is different, right? Which is mutter even if she had children, right?
So the real basic question is, does the second brother steps to the plate, so to say?
Baseball and Gemara. Yes.
That's his book.
Yeah.
That's
right. So says the Gemara, Rabbi Yosef said, Ma'at Sofer. What's the premise of your question? The premise of your question is chalitza kinyan. Of course, the premise of your question that now vis-a-vis the other brothers, her prohibition is because she was the wife of the Loi brother, can only be based on the svara that chalitza is a kinyan, right? That at the same moment it's both a kinyan and a gerushin, right? It's like kedusha gerushin basachas, right? However, ein oil ptur. It's not true. It's only a ptur. So therefore, they're not chayav on her because of the wife of the choletz, because it's a ptur, not a kinyan. Now here it says chayavin alem mishum ishlo shomeis, so chayav because of the wife of the deceased, right? But actually the Korban Eder changes the girsa. Korban Eder changes the girsa. Now that I look at it now, I don't see why he has to do it, but he does change. He does propose to change it. He says al chayavin al tzaras mishum ishlo shomeis. And he's doing this in order to get back. Now he's doing it in order to get back to Amud Aleph. Because bear in mind, the whole question Rabbi Yehuda began with is why on the chalitza, according to people, chose that neither he nor the brothers are chayav on the chalutza anymore because of Eishasach, but they're chayav on the tzara because of Eishasach. So he's trying. So the Korban is trying to get the Gemara to explain that. That's why he changes the girsa. That they're not chayav on her because she's the wife of the choletz, and he could read al chayav lemishum ishto shemetz, but the chayav on her because she's the wife of the deceased. But remember, we're trying to go back to Rabbi Yehuda's original question, which is according to the opinion holds that nobody's chayav on her anymore because of one of them did chalitza. So he's trying to explain that again. He's trying to coax the Gersa to say the chalitza is a p'tur, not just vis-a-vis that one individual brother who did it, but vis-a-vis all of them. But of course, the tzara avu chayovin al tzarasa, the way he changes the Gersa, but on the co-wife mishum shemeis, of course, she never had a p'tur to undergo, and therefore she's still considered to be the wife of the deceased. Now, Rabbi Yehuda asked another question. Rabbi Yehuda, boy, it is Geshmak, or it's hard, but it's Geshmak. You can sink your teeth into this one, right? Rabbi Yehuda, boy, Rabbi Yehuda asked, Command the Marakom Modim Shutzar Shuki Chayev. According to people chose, everybody agrees on the co-wife that they're Chayev Misa, because the Chayev Koretz because of Eishasach. Kiddush Echad Min Hashuk, this is a cool case. Is really a cool case. Kiddush Echad Min Hashuk is Achas Man. Okay, there are two co-wives. The husband died, two co-wives. No brother has yet stepped to the plate. In the meantime, some guy comes from the marketplace. Some guy's not related. He comes and marries one of the co-wives. It's really a brei issue. What's going to happen here? He comes and marries one of the co-wives, right?
Is the marriage
Uvay Yavam, and the Yavam came, the Cholatzlan, he did chalitza to this woman. Uba, it could be Oba, and it came, Oba, it should be Oba, or he had relations with her. So then if we make kedusha, then obviously the marriage doesn't work. Marriage doesn't work because obviously his rights come first, and once he did chalitza ibum, he asserted his rights, and that's it. The marriage doesn't work. But what about chalitza chaver to ba'aleh? If he did the chalitza bia to the other wife, to the co-wife, so does it lemafrei chololeh kiddushin? Does it work retroactively? Is there brei when we say that the kiddushin on the first co-wife works? You see, if he did chalitza or bia on that for wife upon which the stranger did kiddushin, the house kiddushin is null and void. But what if he did bia or chalitza on the second wife, the co-wife? Retroactively, they say the kiddushin worked on this wife. So it's really it's a breira question as far as I can tell, but the Gemara doesn't treat it as such. Rabbi Sirah said, "Located in Rabbi Yanai." Then Rabbi Yanai say, "Nimnu shloshim." The commas came. 30 some odd elders voted. Minayin sheik, and they said Minayin sheik kedushin tefsi yivama. How do we know that marriage doesn't take place in Yivama? Your question doesn't start. Marriage is not effective in the Yivama, as you said. It's kuka. There's no marriage. Talmud loyimar, because the pasuk says lo tieshes hamesa chutz lishzor. Says as long as nothing has been done, she can't go to a foreign man. Shlo yelo avaya etzel acher. She can't marry somebody else. Amar le Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said to Rabbi Zera, "Hey, is it to Rabbi Zera or to Rabbi Yadai? For lo masdisai, isn't this also a Mishnah? If a man marries a woman who's a Yavam and says this marriage should work after your Yavam does chalitza to you, it's not about Kiddushin. Because there's no marriage until marriage cannot take effect, even out tonight, until after chalitza takes place. So says the Gemara, Vayot should be Rabbi Yanai. Rabbi Yanai Mekalis Rabbi Yanai praised Rabbi Yochanan to such an extent what a gewaldic thing he did to figure out that this Mishnah says the same thing. He said, Hazolim Zog Mikis, gold flows from their pockets. Bani Ali Elisu Me'enecho, my children, they should not move from your eyes. Chachim b'ni v'samach libi, be joyful, my son, and my heart will rejoice. Teil chacham v'yechkamo, give a wise man and become more wise. Yishma chacham v'yosif lekach, and the wise man will learn more things. Oh, Rabbi Yochanan was gewaldic. Rabbi Yochanan found it out in the Mishnah. Says when Rabbi Shimon Lakish, this. Beside Koilin Kulusaya, after all these praises, Rabbi Yochanan is not necessarily correct. Why it's not necessarily correct, we'll see tomorrow night. Rabbi Shimon Lakish was the party pooper.